it out the day after Christmas. You're the heroes. You're the true heroes. Put on a cake. I know it's hard. It was hard for me to get up this morning, so I can imagine. Especially for people that have to go from house to house to house to house. But anyways, hopefully everyone had a Merry Christmas. Good to see your faces. Some people I haven't seen in a minute. It's good to see you, man. I'm gonna be as brief as I can. And what do you guys know that? I don't know if that means anything. Just don't look at your watch. You'll be all right. Now, you know, this is the last Sunday of 2021. Sorry. Christina, you want to go upstairs with Heather? You want to hang out with me? That's cool, too. Now, this is the last Sunday of 2021, last week of 2021. And in some cases, thank God, we thought 2020 was a doozy, but along came a successor. And 2021 was, I mean, just as crazy, if not as crazier than 2020. And I think, you know, like for most of us, 2021 has been marked by its ups and downs, highs and lows. But I believe it's also been marked by true grit, that we've showed up day after day, week after week, month after month, right? I think it would have been easy to just quit, give up. And, you know, in a lot of cases, we know some people that just did, in a lot of ways. And so I think for what God has done in us, as a people, as a church, and your individual families, I think it's taken the desire to be transformed into the image of God. I think it's taken some convincing to live and function by His true nature, right? And to be called according to His name and to continue this journey, especially here at Upward Call Church, but more specifically in your own lives. Like, I know some of your stories, I know some of the things that you've walked through this year, and I know that a lot of those things haven't been easy. And without the grace of God, I don't know how a lot of people do it without Jesus in their lives, because that is the true grace, and that's the true mercy that enters into our lives that allows us to carry on, right? And not that we're any different than anyone else, because we all have the same kind of issues, we all walk through the same kind of troubles and problems at times. But knowing where our grace comes from, knowing where our salvation comes from, it's sometimes the only thing that we have to hold on to, right? And so let me just walk you back through memory lane a little bit of 2021. Just specifically here, you have your own stories, but just at Turning Point, not Turning Point, at Upward Call Church. Ooh, flashback. Freudian slip. January, we're still meeting outside by the trash cans in the back of the park, trying to compete with the girls' softball team for where we're gonna set up church. Right? There were times when we would rock up to church and there's cars where we would set up, and we'd have to quick make a plan and go sit up under a tree or wherever, with the wind blowing and people's stuff flying out of their Bible. I remember Colleen chasing her stuff into the parking lot because all of her Bible just flipped all open, and looking back and seeing people's hair sideways because the wind was just blowing so hard. And thank God it didn't really smell by that trash can, but that's where we were after not having our building, right? I think, you look at March, where we celebrated Easter out by the planters, and it was still kind of cool, but this is where we were, right? Mother's Day, Father's Day, outside. And then we had the record highs of heat ever in California, while we're setting up outside and doing church, right? It was bananas. I mean, I knew the church attendance was going to be high or low based on what the forecast was, right? And I mean, it just was a reality. I think, you know, it was, looking back, you know, you got to be crazy or stupid or just called by God, right, to lead a church through all of that. And I think it was a little bit of all three. You know, we lost people due to COVID. You know, our numbers have declined because of COVID, for whatever reasons. But the reality is also that we've gained new faces because of COVID. And so I don't know if it's all bad that, you know, I don't know if we would have had, if Erica would show up or Nicole would be here or even Robert and Kristen and some of the other people, Isaac and Denise, if it wasn't for that. You know, we've added deacons to our team. We've added elders to our team. This hasn't been all bad. We celebrated our 5th anniversary in a building that we walked into in September, right? You know, our ladies went to Placerville, where Kenesha she led a women's ministry up there, our women's advance. We had a men's advance up in the mountains. I mean, it hasn't been all bad. We've introduced new babies into Upward Call Church, and I mean, we've lost some family members as well. I mean, this has been a year. But I think all in all, it's helped us to build our faith and build our hope in who Jesus is. And I think you can look back at every year that you've ever lived, and you can mark those things, the good things and the bad things. Right? And it is those things that help to build our character. Right? But beyond our character, what needs to be built is our faith and our trust and our hope in God. Because it's easy to just walk around with good character. Anyone can establish good character if they work on it. But not just anyone can establish their relationship with God through those difficult times, through the highs and the lows. Right? Because in the lows is the times where we look for God. In the highs is the times where we forget about God. And so that's why it takes character in both situations. It takes character to say, God, I don't know everything, and I need help. And it takes character to say, God, I know I didn't get here on my own. Yeah. Right? This has been a crazy year, but I think these are the moments that we've been prepared for. These are the moments that we've been called for. Like Esther, for such a time as this, God's called each and every one of us. Right? And so if you have your Bible, we're going to be a little bit all over, but well, go to Matthew chapter 26, please. But in Acts, I'll read this to you. In Acts chapter 17, verse 26, it says, "From one man, he, being God, has made every nationality to live over the whole earth and has determined their appointed times and the boundaries of where they live." So what I want to say to you is, one, we all come from one God. Right? No matter what we look like, no matter what cultures we come from, no matter what nationalities we are all one people. Right? And I think, one, that's important for us to understand, especially in these times. Right? But the more important thing that I want to point out is that God has called each one of us to this time and this place for His specific reasons. Right? At the end of that, it says, He has determined their appointed times and the boundaries of where they live. See, we think we get to choose where we go and what we do, when actually it's God who chooses. Right? It's God who takes us from Alabama to Chino or Ontario. And you never even heard of Ontario probably before. You know, maybe with family, but whatever. You get the idea. Is that God takes us from place to place by His design. He's not playing checkers. He's playing chess. And what we have to understand is that He's strategic in the ways and the things that He does. And so for even us to be in this room together, it's a phenomenon. But only by God. Only by God. He's determined this for you and me. For not just now, but for our future. And I think as a result of God's choice, for where you and I live, we've got to be dedicated to live in this space and in this time with the rigor and the fight to be determined to see the most out of what God has called us to. If we're not willing to go, if we just go through the motions of life, we'll constantly be disappointed. We'll constantly be disappointed. But when we work and fight for the things that God has called us to, and the things that He's called us for, when we actually step into the wind that's blowing into our face, and we're fighting to get every inch of what God has called us to, that's what's worth it. Yeah. It's that kind of determination that we need in order to live in this space and time. This has not been easy for any of us. Some of our workloads have increased by like hundreds of percentages. Yeah, I ran out of breath. Hundreds of percentages. Our work has increased. Some of us, our work has decreased, and we've had to find other ways to make ends meet. None of this has been easy. Not seeing family members or getting into arguments with family members or whatever the case is, like none of that has been easy in this time. But we fight through it, and we fight through it so that we can actually enjoy the things that God has called us to. We take one step at a time, but those steps that we take are steps that we've earned in God. Those steps that we take are those steps that we've fought for, so that we don't want to give those steps back. I believe what is required is not unlike what Jesus Himself showed us on His way to the cross. So in Matthew chapter 26. Verse 36. It says, then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane. So these are the hours before Jesus is about to be arrested, right? And taken through all the trial and all the rigmarole to get to the cross. It says Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane. He told His disciples, sit here while I go over there and pray. Taking along Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, He began to be sorrowful and troubled. And He said to them, I am deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and stay awake with me. And going a little farther, He fell face down and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Not my will, but your will. You look at that, and so much is made out of the disciples falling asleep. I want to make more about Jesus and his time with God, right? Because what we all understand and know is that ultimately He went to the cross. Because that was the plan that Him and God and the Holy Spirit came up with when Adam fell. Right? I believe from the very moment that Adam fell, this was the plan. This was the design. Someone has to make a sacrifice for this. Adam and Eve can't make the sacrifice for themselves. There's nothing that they can do that is gonna equal what needs to be done in order for them to have right relationship with me again. And so this is the plan. This is the plan. And so looking ahead, like foreshadowing and understanding all of what needed to get done and all that needed to happen in between those times, Jesus knew that. And yet still, He goes to the Father and He says, listen, I don't want to do this. Is there some way? Is there any other way that these guys can have a right relationship with you? Is there any way we can mend this? But listen, if there's not, I understand, because it's not my will, but your will. See, as we come out of 2021 and into 2022, I believe that we still got a week. And we still got time for God to complete the things that He's told you that He would complete. See, it's not too late for God to do the things that He said He would do. It's never too late. And every situation that we're in, all things are redeemable in God. And so if we just give up and say, we'll just wait till next year. We'll try this all over again. We'll start all over again. We'll try to save and get to that vacation, or we'll try to work our way out of this situation, or we'll work on a relationship better in next year. God is saying no. That there's still time right now. Yes, there's a future. Right? Yes, there's a future that He's promised, but there's also right now. And right now, God is saying, fight the good fight. Fight to the finish. I think we've gotten really good at giving up. Just as a culture, we've gotten really good at giving up. We'll just start over again. There's nothing wrong with this. Don't take me wrong. I'm just going to declare bankruptcy and we'll just start all over again. Well, I'll just get divorced and get another wife or a husband. You know what? You're 18. You got to get out. Because I've done everything I can do, and I can't do anything else for you. Now, again, there's certain circumstances, I get it. And I'm not trying to paint everything with a broom, right? But the reality is that sometimes we have to stick in and we have to fight to the finish. And the things that God has promised, the things that God has said, the things that we understand and know that God has promised in His Word and to us personally, we have to fight for those things. And those things that we fight for, those inches that we take, are all going to be worth it because they're our inches. They're our feet that we take. There's the ground that we actually have uncovered and walked into. And now God has revealed Himself to us, and we don't want to give that back. We shouldn't want to give that back. We have to fight to the finish. Verse 39. First, Jesus is asking to have His destiny changed, His portion minimized, and the plan of God that's been laid out, He's asking for it to be altered. Now, I don't know about you, and I'll just speak for myself. I've prayed those prayers. God, I don't want to. Can you just come? You're the God of everything. You're the God of the impossible. Can't you just come and fix this? I don't want to have to walk through the journey of getting this when I already know that you can do it. It's kind of like Job, right? God tells Job, go to Nineveh. He's like, why? All they're going to do is repent when I get there, so you just do it. I don't want to go. Jonah, what did I say? Yeah, Jonah. Sorry. You know me. But there's something in the journey. There's something in us being obedient to what God has called us to get to the places where He's told us to go. It's not about the destination all the time. Sometimes it's about the journey, because we become a people of just wanting results. Show me the money, right? Show me if there were memes back when that phrase came out, they'd be all over the place. Show me the money. I want results. That's all I want. That's all I care about. Right? What have you done for me lately? But that's not how God functions. That's not how God works. He's in the journey with us. It's about getting there. It's not just about the destination. Jesus is asking for His whole destiny to be changed. Could you imagine if God said, it's okay, Jesus, you don't have to. what would that have been? What would have that meant for us?
Yeah.
What would that have meant for him? Like I said, it's his whole plan the whole plan of God would have been altered. He wouldn't be seated at the right hand of God. What is it that God has called you to do, and what are you asking for what plans are you asking God to alter by not walking through and finishing what God has called you to finish?
Good.
Don't do that. Don't shortchange yourself. Because here's the thing. God has some blessings for each one of you as you walk through your journey. Right? As you fight for the things that He's called you to fight for. There's crowns and there's jewels and there's blessing on your way there. And listen, if you don't want it, I will take it. If you don't want yours, I'll gladly take it. Because it's out there to be had. Because God's destiny and His plan and His dreams, they don't change.